Should we start this one out on a serious note? You don't kill women and children and call yourself righteous. You don't drag dead bodies through the street and call it a cause. You don't commit what the rest of us to be inhumane acts and say you're on the right side of justice.
As an example to how ignorant the American public still is to how much danger is around them, there's a sheriff in Polk County, Florida, who's urging his citizens to please lock their cars at night and take their guns in when they get home, because there's been a rash of burglaries of teenagers and basic street thugs burglarizing cars that are unlocked that have firearms in them. That's almost as foolish, if not more foolish, than trying to run a chainsaw one-handed.
Try that at home. Today is all about physics. Step 1 complete. It's hard to believe that the world could look the same in some spots as it did in 1776, and we could have it as screwed up as we have it today, ain't it? It's actually a joy to be coming out here and doing this, truthfully. I don't have to look at all the crazy shit going on. Pretty straightforward when you come back here. There's a job to be done, and that's just the way it is. You can piss and moan and whine and cry, but it's still there. It still needs to be done. Spend too much time pissing and moaning and whining and crying about it. It's just a waste of energy. But why is today all about physics? For those of you that have done this before, that should be pretty obvious. But for those of you who haven't, this tree, even though it's got a real nice base to it, is now a balancing beam. All the limbs that are facing the ground basically are the only thing holding it up on both sides. So you gotta mind how you cut it, or you will wish you did, put it that way. It's one thing to be out there working on somebody's car in their driveway. That increases the risk of injury enough on its own. But out here, something happens, there ain't no customer around to walk out and see you're in a jam to help you out. Something happens out here, I'm not going to see anybody for quite some time. Try to get that on the bar if possible. There we go. So I got to mind my physics, I guess you could say. How about this one? An army, or a country, or even humanity for that matter, is like a tree. In the beginning, it's all in one piece. But when division and strife enters the picture, eventually things start getting whittled down, and all you end up with is a pile of whatever applies. At least this pile, I can make some use out of it and get some heat. But when you're dead, you're just dead. So yeah, I can't deny it. I like Donald Trump just fine. However, I don't agree with the way that he's handled this as a tactician or commander throughout this entire situation. You don't give your enemy lead time. You don't give your enemy everything they want. It doesn't and should never work like that. And you definitely don't let things expand to such a level as we have today and not expect that things could go horribly wrong when you could have cut it all off at the pass halfway through your first term. And when you raise your hand and take the oath, it's supposed to mean something. And the first thing it means is you don't walk off the battlefield. And even if you get your wits about you and come back, the rest of the soldiers are going to look at you funny and wonder about your motives and whether or not you're going to run off again. Because in the end, if we're going to take an oath, we're all going to have to count on one another to survive. Or this happens. Every time I see all these scratch and bite marks in the van, I just gotta smile. She was one hell of a dog, and I've got the evidence to prove it. Miss you, Harley, wherever you might be.